Last time, on Zodiac Academy, The Awakening, not a whole lot happened. Darcy got bullied and then still went to her tutoring professor, Orion. Orion was vague and unhelpful, but he did tell her that she's super powerful. Too bad she can't seem to use her power. And then Tori got mad because somebody posted naked pictures of her, and to get revenge she blasted some kid with water, but then she continued to let the other bullies bully her because they're just hot. Alright, we're back for Darcy's chapter. Good, nice long one. Love to see it. Hey, at least it gets us through this book faster. I'm trying to transfer files from my old computer just in case it decides to just completely crap out. So that's a lovely time that I am having, but there is this book. We have another horoscope, we're just beginning the day with those, and we have another chapter that begins with a character waking up. Nothing wrong with that, except for it's been like the last 3 chapters is just we start the day, we go to some event, we get bullied. Repeat, probably for the rest of this book. She's got a werewolf class today, so that's exciting. I'm sure she will be harassed by werewolf boys. A little change of pace from being harassed by vampire boys. Oh, suddenly Darcy has always been an artist. Was that ever mentioned before? It might have been mentioned offhand, but I do not remember it. And all of a sudden she's like, yeah, I looked at the sketches that I drew of the grounds and buildings last night. I'm guessing they're going to be a plot point because otherwise why were we shown them? Like, she looks at the drawings, she doesn't like them, she shoves them in a drawer. And I'm gonna guess that some guy is gonna find them and use them to harass her. That's the only reason I can think of that we are being shown all of a sudden that she totally has been sketching the school grounds.
So I'm like 5 chapters away from the ending in my reading, and the sketches have not come back up. So I'm like, I forgot that they existed. I'm like still wondering now, why is she an artist for like 10 seconds?
One thing I have been doing a lot in my critiquing is noticing where people could be more specific. If you can be more specific at the right time, it will really elevate your story. And I don't mean specific as in you need to go on for paragraphs and paragraphs about something, but something as simple as students were running around, many looking tense. Can we have a little bit more detail about like what does looking tense mean? Are they standing in little clumps, talking in low voices? Are they walking stiffly with their heads down and their eyes straight ahead? Just like little details like that can elevate from telling to showing, and you really don't use that many more words for it. Like I said, you don't need to create a whole new big chunk of narrative for it. Just a little bit extra and details and specificity can elevate your book. Especially since she's just come out of her room, it would be helpful to set the scene, be descriptive a little bit. Ooh, we have some more hints about the nymphs, this nymph conflict that is running in the background, so far in the background that it can barely be called a plot point. But we are hearing of it for the second time. Her teacher mentioned that she didn't need to worry about the nymph conflict. She comes to the common room and everyone's watching TV, and apparently Fairyland just has like news reports just like Earth does, and there was a murder that was discovered by a student at the Zodiac Academy. Why we're not suspicious of this student, I don't know, but the murder was definitely committed by a nymph, for sure, 100%. And not by any of the many, many murderous students on this campus. So obviously everybody's in the common room watching the news report. We hear just exactly enough, like very classic, like we walk in on the news report at exactly the right time and then someone shuts it off when the amount of information that the main character needs has been imparted, lest we spend any time learning about the rest of the world. And the person who shut it off was, of course, one of the hot boys. I don't remember which one. He jogs through the room. When he's done shutting off the TV, he jogs, which is like such an odd way to move through a room. I think maybe you mean tense, smile. Someone touched my arm and I jolted back into my own space, turning to find Diego there. He gave me a terse smile. I feel like maybe you mean tense.
Hola, Diego!
Darcy does not miss a chance to call the other girls preening Barbies because the girl hate is just just through the roof in this book, except for one girl who is too tall to be attractive, and also she's kind of cringy, and another girl who's just basically around to be expositional and be like a little friend and tag along to the lead character, one of the lead girls, I can't remember which. So Fae are bad because they aren't born with elemental powers. They can only get the powers if they kill a Fae and steal their powers. And that is why nymphs are bad. Racism. Like, I mean, I get it. You don't want them to kill your people, but at the same time, like, you're hanging out with vampires and werewolves, y'all. And the vampires and sirens also, like, steal people's powers. They just don't have to kill you to do it. They could kill you. They just don't have to. So, but they're fine. It's just the nymphs. We draw the line with the nymphs because they have to kill you all the way. And that is the line that we draw in the sand. Another weird arbitrary line they draw, there is such a thing as memory magic, make you forget, but it's illegal. Like that kind of coercion is taking coercion too far. You can tell somebody to walk off a cliff with coercion if you wanted to, but if you make them forget about it, there once again we draw the line. They get to breakfast, and once again, their built-in cult has laid out a fantastic spread of food options for them, and immediately, of course, Darcy is super annoyed by this. We get more indication that the members of this club are not attractive. We get a brutish girl. Everybody who's not super, super hot is useless and cringy and annoying. But everybody who is super, super hot can do anything to you, no matter what, and you should be thanking them. So because these girls can't do anything without being bullied, the obnoxious guy from before with the unibrow uses coercion to command them to make out with each other, but before they can, the cringy people whom they hate come to their defense and save them from that situation. But I'm sure they're still going to be like, ugh, ew, I don't want to hang out with those people. Ooh, we have tarot class. Okay. Here's something I know a little bit about. There are murals on the walls of various tarot cards, and one appeared to be a man hanging from a tree, the other a jester. Now, I get that most people aren't familiar with tarot, but those are pretty recognizable cards. The Hanged Man and the Fool, pretty recognizable. But she's just like, oh, there's a guy in a tree and a jester. I don't know what they are. I think Diego and Sophia, the two, like, friends who don't matter, are the two side characters who mostly exist just so our main characters have some kind of friends. I think they're gonna end up together. We're pairing the spares. He spends the first half of the class naming each of the 21 cards and describing their meanings. I'm assuming we mean the major arcana, because there's way more cards than 21, but we're probably only dealing with the major arcana in this class right now anyway. Ooh, they get to draw cards for each other. The girls do. Let's see what they get. Do you think either of them are going to get Death or the Tower? Those are two cards that you pretty frequently see in media, especially Death, which doesn't actually mean, like, bad things, but everybody thinks it does because it's Death. Let's see which ones they draw. Okay, Tori gets... one of them gets the High Priestess. I don't know which one this card is drawn for. I'm not as familiar with the High Priestess, so I might have to go get my tarot book and find out if it's correct. Sophia says that it means someone is being dishonest with you or withholding information. I'm gonna read my book. I don't think I've ever actually drawn the High Priestess. I learn by doing, so every time I draw a card that I don't recognize, I learn about it. Right, so I just read the High Priestess, and there's nothing about it, upright or reversed, about like someone lying to you. It's mostly about your own spiritual connection. Upright, it's very much like knowing yourself. And like you have formed the bridge between the spiritual and the physical world. So absolutely not. I don't know what this girl is talking about.
If this was a different book, a book that had thus far proved itself to be clever and thoughtful, I might think that this was a clue. Perhaps her little friend is giving her the wrong meaning of the card because her friend is trying to clue her in that someone is being deceitful with her. Possibly even the friend. Like, is this trying to be foreshadowing? But considering the book that this is, I seriously doubt that. So, like, why do we have specifically the High Priestess if they are not even going to get the meaning correct? Unless there's like a very obscure meaning that I don't know about.
Apparently they didn't draw this card for anyone. They're trying to figure out who this card is for at this point. And I'm confused because normally when you do a reading, like someone is having the reading done for them or you are doing a reading for yourself. I don't know. Like, I mean, I know on my channel that I do tarot readings that are just kind of open-ended, and whether you resonate with it or not, that's up to you. I'm like, you're in the room with all these people. Why would you not specify, like, who this card is for? Darcy drew the card, so that means Darcy would be reading for Tori. Tori, like, puts her hand on the card and just, like, lets herself, like, drift. And she kind of disassociates for a minute and she feels like she's being watched and she feels like she's in danger and there's something about fire. And I'm like, cool, none of that has to do with the card that you drew. Unless we are saying that because it's the High Priestess and it's about spiritual connection, she's connected to something spiritual that is super dangerous. But I feel like probably the authors of this book did not go that far. I feel like they didn't even really look up the meaning of the card. Also, even though they have a man as their teacher in this class, it is very reminiscent of the "you have the Grim" scene from Harry Potter, because the teacher came over and he's like, "let me see your palm," and then he like has a freak out moment, the same as Trelawney did in that scene. And then he just tells her the same thing that she already like knew from the vision that she just had. He says, "Beware of your enemies, girl, they are made of fire and shadow." You know, the exact things that she just saw in the vision that she had. So thank you. I want to know what card the other girl gets. You're not even going to tell me? I can see there's a page break coming up, so we're almost done with tarot class, and my expertise ends there. But apparently the High Priestess is her card 100%. So let's go a little bit deeper into this, because like they try to draw for her again and it's the High Priestess again, and they try several more times and it's always the High Priestess. So the High Priestess is her card. Magic wills it so. So let's talk about this with the actual interpretations that we could have of the High Priestess. If I was reading that for somebody, it could be saying that she herself is the High Priestess, is represented by the High Priestess in this moment. She has reached a connection, a spiritual connection, or she may be some type of spiritual leader herself. But it also might be a bit more just like wibbly wobbly and just telling her, like we mentioned, that she has reached some kind of spiritual understanding. She has bridged a gap between the spiritual and the physical, which could be why she's being haunted. Or another way we can look at it, because they just drew a single card. We have no idea of its position in a spread, how to interpret this card. It's just a single card that we drew. So we're just trying to figure out what it could mean. It could also mean that there is somebody in her life that she needs to reach out to become her High Priestess and guide her into this spiritual and physical understanding, this bridging. Those are the things that I'm getting from this card, and like I said, because it's not within a spread, it could mean a great number of things. So we'll see if that goes anywhere, but obviously she was not given the correct interpretation in the book. But the girls definitely agree, someone is lying to us is the interpretation. I think that is probably, what's her name? The Enid girl. Her name's not Enid, but that's what I keep thinking of her as. I think it's her. She's lying because she doesn't know what the card means. Sophia. Her name is Sophia. Sophia's off to Pegasus class with Diego, and the girls are going to werewolf class. And Diego is apparently a griffin. Okay, sure. I'm also mad that we only got one tarot card draw for one of the girls. Their teacher in werewolf class, go ahead and guess what her name is. Couldn't be Professor Lupin because that's already been taken. Her name is Professor Canis. One thing about the werewolves in this world is they are very touchy-feely. They're always nuzzling and touching each other. And, I mean, on its own, I don't hate that as a concept. I know that it mostly exists to give Seth the werewolf a reason to always be touching our main character, because that's just werewolf culture. But if that wasn't part of it, I think that's actually kind of cute that like werewolves are just very touchy-feely like dogs. They always just want to be like in contact with you.
Hey, why are you touching him?
These are the kind of werewolves whose clothing is destroyed every time they transform, so the whole class has to strip. Again, everything comes back around to hot boys. By the way, the entire class is just frolicking. Everybody gets naked, turns into wolves, and has a frolic around the field. That's the class. Of course, our girl is charmed by Hot Boy in his wolf form. He's like pure white and very like adorable, I think. I don't know, she's like fascinated by him. I don't know if we're doing bestiality or if she just thinks he's like cute puppers. But for some reason, the girls decide that the thing to do in this situation is hop on for a ride on this wolf who was about 5 minutes ago a naked boy.
This is fine. I'm okay with the events that are unfolding currently.
Both the girls, if you're wondering, are just loving the heck out of this completely random, where the fuck did this come from and why is this in the book, wolfback ride that they are both taking. Darcy is riding on White Wolf Boy and Tori is on a different wolf, and they're just running off into the trees with laughing and gleeful and completely trusting that nothing bad's gonna happen to them. While riding off on, may I remind you, someone who was moments ago a naked, probably 19 or 20-year-old boy.
No, don't like that.
And also a boy who is known to psychologically harm her at best and physically harm her at worst. She's okay with it because he's a cute pupper right now. He takes her to like this hidden pool in the forest and he goes into the water and then he transforms back into a human and she's still like super charmed by this entire situation and I'm sitting back just, my brain is just on repeat. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? Just imagine that looping in my head and yours as well. She feels captive to his animalistic aura. I should have brought a barf bucket to this. By the way, now she's still in the pool with this man who is nude, and he has pulled her like up against him and is basically holding her against his muscular, hot body. And she is fine with this. But then he splashes her and she calls him a bastard in her head and swims away like that. This man harassed you from the moment you got here. But he gives you a little splashy splash in the face, you know, like cute boys do sometimes when you're just playing around in the water. And you're like, ugh, what a jerk, I'm gonna swim away now. Also, apparently Tori hates water and hates deep water. She did use water to splash that boy before, but then maybe that's different. Using water as a power is different. I can't remember, did either of them have anything to do with swimming previous to now? I feel like maybe they didn't. I don't know, this book is just a series of things, and I can't remember any of them because nothing matters. Then Seth is like, the only way to find out if you're werewolves is to howl, so both of you howl, and then they do, and nothing happens, so our girls are not werewolves. I'm not surprised by that. They are too hot to be werewolves. Like, they are gonna probably turn into some hitherto unknown creature that's like way more beautiful and way cooler than anything anybody else here can transform into. And then all the wolves are like, well, never mind, we're done with you because you're not wolves like us, and they all run away, and the girls are like, what jerks, they left us here in this clearing. But I'm like, compared to what they've done to you in the past, just like giving you a free wolfie back ride and then leaving you in a clearing, not that bad. Just fucking walk home, okay? But that's that chapter, and now I need to go check on my computer because it might be doing the thing again. So I'll see you for the next chapter.
All right, you know what time it is. It's time for some shameless self-promotion. But first, I'm going to let Jill cover basically exactly why we need developmental editors.
I have this first draft, and I can tell that it has structural problems, but it's like a rickety Jenga tower at the moment, or maybe one of those like sponge sugar sculpture things. I don't know how to pull the bad blocks out of the Jenga tower and put good blocks in the Jenga tower without the whole thing crashing down around my ears.
Thanks, Jill, talking to me from your video that you did about your own book. You can find the link to that video in the doobly-doo, but that's basically what I do. Do you feel like Jill? I could be the one to help you figure out the Jenga tower. Neat.
Alright, we're back, unfortunately, for more of this book. We are moving through it, but at the same time, it feels like we're staying in one place because everything is very static, as we've already addressed. If that's the kind of book you're looking for, is fine. But since we're here for a little bit more substance, let's talk about that previous scene where the girls just decided to randomly be okay with riding on the boys in their werewolf forms. and just be like gleefully laughing and thinking it was great. So what do we do if we want to have that scene, but we want to have it work more towards an overall arc of some kind? So let's say the arc is supposed to be that the girls don't like the boys at the beginning, but they like the boys at the end. Pretty simple arc. And let's say that the boys start out very mean, but then they come to like the girls and treat them better at the end. Okay, let's say that that is our arc. Very, very simple, bog standard romance type arc, which I think this book is going for, but it's not doing any of the, work that normally goes into that. It's relying on the trope to just do all the work for it. So we have the boys who have been mean, but we go to werewolf class. The girls are forced to go to werewolf class with them, and they see that the boys are all transforming into pretty werewolves, and they're like, well, crap, we can't transform into werewolves. Maybe they try the howling thing early and it doesn't work, but then all of the werewolves are like running away, and they're like, wait, the class is leaving without us. We have to do something. So maybe they ask one of the hot guys, or maybe they ask some random werewolf, like, do they have any friends in this werewolf class? I can't remember. And they're like, hey, can you give us a ride because we need to keep up with the class. We need to learn things. Like the teacher, also a werewolf, is like running off with the rest of the class. So then they hop onto hot werewolf guy, possibly, and they ride off, but they're not happy about it. They're not hee hee hee, giggle giggle, oh, this is so fun and magical. They're like, I hate this. I shouldn't even be in this class, but I have to keep up with the class because I want to learn things. Like maybe you even give them something specific that they want to learn from this class. That would also be good, so that they have a reason to want to like stay. So give them something specific they want to learn. They have to follow the class because everybody else is in werewolf form running away. So then they ride on werewolves, and like maybe if you really want to, you could have a moment where they're like, this isn't so bad. It's kind of pretty out here. The forest smells really nice. Then you get to the glade or wherever they're going. You don't have any of that weird, like she's cuddled up next to the hot naked guy and is like perfectly fine with it situation. Get rid of that. Like maybe he transforms back and he makes some sort of rude or lewd comment, but she's like, ew, no, because we're in the middle of the book, so we don't need to be getting necessarily to the we love them part. But maybe she realizes that she has been with the guy that she hates the whole time and he didn't do anything to her. He just gave her a pleasant wolfback ride. I don't know. I'm struggling. There's not a lot to work with in this book. And she's like, he didn't do anything mean to me this time. And then they continue with the class. They actually learn something. And then they get abandoned by the wolf pack again, and the guys have a laugh about it. That's it. That's the scene. Like, so there's a goal. It's working a little bit more towards the arc. It's not like characters behaving super randomly where one minute they hate the boys, the next minute they're perfectly fine with sitting on them in werewolf form and laughing and enjoying themselves and snuggling up to them naked in ponds. I will say that as this book goes on, the closer the two authors' writing styles are getting to each other. They're probably passing chapters back and forth. They're picking up on each other's styles, which is good for the person who's writing Darcy, because as I mentioned, she is not as good skill-wise as the person writing Tori, but she is bringing herself up to the person writing Tori's level, which isn't like an amazing level, but it's better. So it's making the girls even harder to tell apart, though. I almost immediately forget which of the girls I'm reading from in which chapter, because they are the same. Which is, you'd think, a problem you wouldn't have from two different authors, but I guess good job getting your styles to a place where they're similar enough that I can't tell your characters apart? I guess? So Tori goes to tutoring, I guess, with a professor named Prestos, who is a lady who has absolutely like no interest. She's basically like, this meeting could have been an email and it will be an email from now on. And I'm like, cool, great. Then why doesn't Orion do the same thing? Because he's clearly doesn't want to be there either and has no interest in teaching. However, this character that we will never see on screen again is being incredibly useful, as she is just dumping just information into Tori's inbox about the history of the Fae, the history of her family and her lineage, which you'd think, yeah, you'd want to get your hands on that pretty much as quickly as possible, considering. We get two paragraphs that basically say the same thing. 2 or 3 paragraphs that basically say the same thing. Yeah, 3. Reiterating over and over again that Professor Prestos is both giving her information, but also refusing to do it in person. We only need one of those paragraphs to understand what's happening here. Oh, and for the first time, Professor has decided that, oh yeah, we're supposed to give these girls access to their wealth. So now they have a fairy credit card. I don't think it gets a special name like Faybook. What would you name the fairy credit card? Again, the school just makes no sense, so the girls spent the afternoon walking back from where the werewolves left them, and they missed other classes because of it. I just like, are you trying to educate kids? Do you not care if they're educated? Like, it just, what is this school? Okay, I don't know what's going on with the author this chapter, but she's being very repetitive. So in one paragraph, she has Tori being like, I used to live in the city. I didn't have much opportunity to go out in nature, and now I'm thinking about going out in nature. Okay, cool. Then, like, 2 paragraphs later, we get the exact same sentiment. Again, worded slightly differently. Like, I haven't really noticed this as a huge problem that this particular author has until now, when it is very noticeably happening over and over again. I don't know if she's trying to fulfill a word count or what, because like these chapters could be shorter. You don't have to fill them up. You could have a shorter chapter every now and then. I think that might be another issue that you run into when you're co-writing something, is you both feel like you have to fill up lengthy chapters because like it's your section, it's your turn. You should get your money's worth out of it, except for you don't always need a super long chapter. So she sees a griffin, she decides to sit by a tree and enjoy nature. She sees a griffin, and she figures it must be one of the students. She's probably correct. I guess it must have been one of the students who had shifted to their order form. But learning about such things and seeing them in the flesh were insanely different. You literally saw it earlier today with the werewolves. She's acting like she wasn't there for that werewolf class. So of course, then she hears the boys. Why wouldn't she? Everything in this book is leading you towards the boys. And she hides behind a tree, and the boys come into the clearing. And the first line any of them says is, I heard something pretty interesting today, Darius. Seth cooed as he stepped into the clearing. He cooed? What an odd way for him, a werewolf, I believe, to say anything. He also, we take the time to notice that he has a man bun going on. He has tied his hair into a man bun, which of course Tori thinks is attractive. Nothing these guys do is unattractive, just so that's clear.
Having a man bun accurately ranks you in the New Age elite. You're special and you know you're special. And your man bun lets everyone else know how special you are.
So Seth is going to tell a story, and one of the other guys, the one that we get the least of, is apparently a siren. And he's like, if you're going to be upset while telling the story, let me in on it. This is such a weird situation. So he puts his arm around Seth so he can, like, drink his emotions. Okay, this line, maybe rework this. Seth barked a laugh, which actually sounded half bark. The final guy joins the group, and he is zipping up his fly, and Tori is like, he must have been taking a pee, and she's like, ew, that's so gross. And I'm like, every guy I've ever met is like thrilled to pee in the woods. I don't understand it, but they're just like, yes, a woods, I'm going to go out and pee in it. I don't know, Adam, can you explain that phenomenon?
I think is very similar to the sweaty bra feeling, and where you get to take it off and get a breath of fresh air. In the same way, you get a nice fresh breeze across the testes that does not get to be experienced that often.
I was thinking maybe it was also something about the freedom of like not being constrained to a bathroom. Like, I can pee wherever I want.
There's definitely a little bit of power play there. I can pee wherever I want. And I think, instinctually, there might be a little bit of
like territory marking?
Territory marking going on, too.
Now that Adam has cleared that up, please weigh in the comments. Do you like to piss in the woods? This whole talk about men peeing in the woods is probably going to be the most exciting part of this. The book is so boring. I wonder if there's a reverse Bechdel test where these just like bricks of characters with no defining personalities, these kind of guys like Jenna Moreci writes or whatever, that are just cardboard cutouts there to be hot. Like, is there a reverse Bechdel test where named hot guys have to have a conversation about something that is not their dicks? or tangential to their dicks, like girls that they want to bone. Because this book would not pass it yet, anyway. Honestly, I think all these guys should just marry each other. They're talking about some girl that one of them potentially has to marry for family bloodlines, yada yada, I don't care. And of course she's ugly and they're mocking her. She's probably just a normal looking person. But yeah, the boys should just marry each other and just make it gay. Just make it gay. They're all alone in the woods, rolling around. Some of them have animal forms. Just have an orgy, boys.
Keep it gay, keep it gay, keep it gay.
You know, these super badass magical people do not seem actually all that badass because all of them rely on getting their power from like external forces. The werewolf, I think, is the one who would be the most powerful because he just has to wait for the moon. He gets his power from the moon, so he doesn't rely on any other people. But the other guys are like, all our magic is tapped from classes today, and so like vampires like, can I drain you? And the guys are like, no, because we don't have any of our powers. And the siren's like, I'm stealing powers from you. And it's just like, so none of you, like if you were in a fight and you got your powers drained, none of you are any good then, actually. You need to steal magic from other people. What badasses. Also, of course, apparently our main characters do not need to gain power from anybody else or any external source. They seem to just have power because they are special. As we have already established, it's on the bingo card almost immediately. So she overhears all of the guys planning to pay her a visit in her room in the night or the next morning to attack her. So she's like, ha ha ha, I'm on to you guys. She's also repeatedly shocked that these guys act like they like each other because they are friends, and she's like, why are they behaving nicely? Which, to be fair, I don't blame her for a little bit, because all she's ever seen these guys do is be assholes, but like, you never see them be assholes to each other, except for like the weirdly homoerotic wrestling matches that they've had in multiple classes now in the background. And then finally, the last thing she overhears, which I'm surprised she wasn't found out by the four boys. That is pretty shocking that didn't happen. But Darius stays behind, and he has a very short phone call about dealing with them, which she assumes is about her and her sister, but could just as easily be about the problem with I forget, whatever the creatures are that are attacking them. Oh, should we give her main character suddenly good at high skill activity? Did we already do that? I think we might have already done that. Yeah. She decides that she's going to trail Darius through the woods. And she's like, well, I've been a thief my whole life, so I'm really good at moving silently. But you also already told us that you have lived in the city your whole life. And being sneaky in the city and being sneaky in the woods, two very different skill sets. So she follows him all the way to a clearing and a gated complex of apartments that's just in the woods. Let me see if I can find that on this crappy-ass map here. Where is that? Okay, yeah, it's at the very top of the map, and part of the name is cut off, so it's right near the Terra House Mountains. Alright, and there's a sign on it that says, Asteroid Place, faculty accommodation only, strictly no students at any time. Failure to comply with this rule will result in serious consequences. We're not going to say what those serious consequences are, like expulsion or anything, just serious consequences. I mean, at this school it could be anything. It could result in having your werewolf privileges revoked or some shit, who knows. Immediately Tori goes, okay, he's here to meet a teacher, and he's definitely here to meet that hot teacher that I spoke to earlier today, because she was looking fine and said she had a date later. And so I immediately assume that it's with one of the students, and that it's this one that I'm following. Also, I'm just reporting this in because this is what's happening in the book, but like I have no idea if any of this is important. Aha, he's meeting with Orion. I can only assume that it's for a teacher-student dalliance. Now, of course, Orion and Darius are talking in a way that is just the right level of vague, so our main character can make assumptions, because they're talking about like them and her, and we're meant to assume that they're talking about the twins, and I'm certain that Tori here will assume that, but it could be any them, possibly the enemy that we're dealing with, the whatevers, I forget what they are. And her could mean like anyone in the school. There are several female teachers. There's also Nova, the not Dumbledore character. And in the right book, this could still work. It's very cliched, but it could still work. If you can make your reader forget that they are reading a cliche, that they can see the seams of what you're doing, and they go, oh, well, yeah, obviously they're talking in this way that people probably would never talk because it has to remain a mystery for me, the reader. But a good author can make you forget that, can make you forget that it's a cliche, can make you not see the seams, can make you so into the story that you don't really notice. Unfortunately, in this situation, there's nothing else to hold our interest, so we can obviously see what the authors are doing. They might as well be standing there with a neon sign, broadcasting it across the pages. It's not supposed to, but this scene is giving off like darker undertones, and not the way that the authors intend. So after they do their weird vague talking about they and she, and we have to kill them, Darius is like sad about the situation that he's in, and like Orion like puts his hand on his shoulder and is like, is this about your father? And I'm like, yeah, this is supposed to be like a moment where we can be like, okay, maybe Orion's not so bad, he's being understanding, but my brain immediately is like, grooming, we are watching grooming happen. This teacher is trying to like make himself a father figure for this student so that he can do nefarious things to him. And that's the end of the conversation. The guys split up, and Tori manages to leave without getting bullied. This might be the first time that we had a chapter that didn't involve her getting bullied in some way. So shocking. And there might be some kind of plot happening on the side. Like the plot, what most people would consider the main plot of a book is actually a side plot of this book, because this book is just here for the hot guys. Let's be real. And we don't want to tie down any of the girls to any one of these guys too soon. So they're just all there, all being hot, all being mean. Maybe I'll read some more today, maybe I won't, but I will see you for the next chapter. Another day, another chapter. Boy, oh boy. We're in that middle bit where it feels like I'm not getting anywhere. But we're back with Darcy and another, not long chapter, but fairly sizable. So here's a couple of times where you can get rid of some I said, she said. I've talked about this with some people in my critiquing, but said is not dead, obviously. But there are times and places where you don't need to use it. And we might have already talked about that in this series, I just don't remember. But the girls are planning to spend the night in Darcy's room, and sure, I'll meet you outside Air Tower, I said, sitting up with a yawn. I'm already there, she said, with amusement in her tone. You can get rid of both of those I said and she said. Sure, I'll meet you outside Air Tower, I sat up with a yawn. I'm already there. There was amusement in her voice. It's obvious by the action tag, if that's what you actually call it, I don't know, that's what I call it, that which girl is speaking. You don't need the I said and she said. So we have a whole long sequence of the girls going back into the tower. We have a sequence of Darcy going out to get Tori, and we have them coming back, and we watch the whole thing. And the whole time, I am, as a reader, braced for them to encounter something, because why else are we watching them go all the way down and then all the way back up? Unless they're going to encounter something, but they don't. They encounter nothing in the hallways. So this is a time when you can tell instead of show. We don't need to watch that entire sequence of events. Go ahead and say that she went down and got her sister and they came back up without incident. I got up to turn on a light and like kicked the camera. So if we're in a slightly different position, that's why. So of course, the girls are sharing what Tori found out, and they naturally come to the conclusion that the they and the she that Orion and Darius were talking about is them. Because we were being needlessly vague. I should probably have needlessly vague on here. Oh, I feel like we should cross off baffling magic system, because the magic system is just like very tenuously explained, and I feel pretty safe saying now that it will never really be explained. It's elemental magic, and it just does whatever, and for some reason people transform, and just, yeah. They also assume that this is related to that like mystery account that I keep forgetting about because it doesn't post enough, where it was like, I forget even what it's called, like Moon and Stars or something like that, that will post things and be like, XOXO, Gossip Girl. Falling Star, it's called Falling Star. So the girls decide to message Falling Star, and they ask, you said there were things we didn't know about Orion, care to explain? And then Falling Star answers, I don't like the company he keeps. After some back and forth, Falling Star says that they are suspicious that the House of Accru, I don't know, was involved in the death of their birth parents. Their parents were named Hale and Marissa. So you've got one like very fairy-ish name, King Hale. And then we have Queen Marissa. Okay, yeah, I think we have confirmation that the babies that the girls were swapped with are super dead. Because Gwendolina and Roxania were found dead in their palace beds at 7:08 yesterday morning. So they're reading a news report about what happened to their parents, and presumably they were swapped before that, and so the babies, the human babies that were swapped in for our two main characters are super dead. Everyone seems to believe that the royal family was killed by nymphs. I don't know how you prove that. Do nymphs kill in a certain way? Or can you, like, could a vampire not kill them in a similar way? Or I keep forgetting what they're called. Siren, the energy draining ones. I wonder if the authors will go deeper about this. There's a possibility, I suppose, especially in later books. The girl's father, it turns out, was a really barbaric king, which, you know, sets the tone for how everybody behaves here in Fairyland. But he was super, super barbaric and violent, and everyone hated him. And so we're glad that he's dead. And I wonder if we're ever going to explore that side of it, where the hot boys don't just hate the two girls because they're going to take their power, but they hate the two girls because the two girls are the rightful heirs of the bloody, violent king who just ruined everyone's lives. Okay, apparently nymphs do have a pretty distinct way of killing. They stab you in the heart with their claws and suck out your magic. But at the same time, could somebody not just stab with a knife and then drain the magic using vampiric powers? Seems possible to me. So the girls read that news report, and that's the end of the scene. They're basically just like, we in trouble, they might be coming after us, which we already kind of guessed might be happening, but now the girls are pretty sure. Will they do more to attempt to avoid the people they think might be trying to kill them? Probably not. In fact, we cut to Darcy in Orion's class. So she's like, this guy's probably trying to kill me, but I'm going to his class. I mean, maybe she's trying to be like, oh no, he can't know that I know. But it just kind of seems like she's like, every time these girls find out something bad is happening, they just are like, but we can't miss class. One of the hot girls that we're supposed to hate is handing out flyers for a party, and she's like, we don't like you guys, so you can't come to our party, very blatantly to their faces. And I'm just like, you wanted to go to their party? But Orion gives this mean girl her comeuppance because he, like, shreds all of her invitations. Orion makes Darcy recite all of the different Zodiac signs, which I thought neither of the girls were really into the Zodiac signs, but she rattles them off perfectly. I could not do that. I think she even does them in order. Meanwhile, Orion takes Tori down to his desk. He does a little palm reading on her to find out her magic levels, and then he has a little bite of her blood. Of course, one of the mean girls takes a picture of Orion blood-sucking Tori, and then it's all over Facebook for some reason, even though, like, vampires apparently just, like, chomp on people whenever they want in this universe. But then, this is so stupid, one of the hot guys, Caleb, comes bursting in, and he fights with Orion for a little bit, very briefly, because, like, only he's supposed to be allowed to drain Tori, and it's just so dumb.
It's so dumb.
It's so dumb, it's brilliant.
No! It's just dumb.
Are we supposed to be rooting for Caleb? Like, I don't know. I don't know, sometimes these tropes, they make me wonder. Are we supposed to be like, aw, Caleb, he likes her, and that's why he came to defend her from the teacher, and also to claim her as his own as though she is an object. Adorable. It's also pretty convenient that it's taking so long for the girls to learn any powers or abilities that will, like, help them against the bullies and teachers. They're learning to like shield their minds is not coming along. Some more house points are bandied around because Harry Potter did it. We get another convenient memory that the girls have, like whenever they need to have had a skill all along, we're doing the same thing as we did in Lightlark, where they can just be like, oh yeah, I know this because one of my foster parents taught me it. So Kylie, one of the mean girls, her last name is Major, and I wasn't sure why, but I just found out. Apparently she has a little like minion girl who follows her around. You know, the hot girls always have followers. And that girl's last name is Minor. So we have Major and Minor.
Everybody's so creative.
And the class just continues, mostly just rehashing stuff we already knew. But then Orion's like, hey Darcy, I'll see you after class. He asks how her coercion shield is coming, and she says, better, I've been practicing with friends, but we have not seen any of that. Not a single moment of this practice that you're talking about. So I would like to see more of that and less of them just getting beat up by hot guys. Like maybe we could have skipped the happy wolf ride and instead watch them practicing their coercion deflecting abilities. The funny thing is that because Orion and the Hot Boys were both already so just over the top, aggressively cruel to these girls, that now that we've got this supposed to be this extra fear, this added layer of what do they want, what are they going to do to us, are they trying to kill us, it doesn't work. Because like it could not be there at all and we would be fine because we already had built up all of this animosity that they have. Like we already felt like the girls were in danger from these people. We didn't need this extra boost of, oh, maybe they're also trying to kill us, because we as the readers have no proof that they weren't trying to kill you before. Now maybe it's part of a plot. Once again, we have the girl in a situation where she's being taken advantage of, but she is actually thankful for it. So the teacher is like, you're going to be my primary blood source from now on. No other vampire can touch you. You're mine. And while she's thinking, gosh, I don't like being considered to be somebody's property, she's also being like, no, but actually it could come in handy being his property because then the other vampires will leave me alone. It's like, stop doing that. The whole book is that, where something terrible happens to the girls, but they're like, actually, it's good. And that's the end of the chapter. It was not a super long chapter, so I might read one more. The next one's kind of longish, but I might do it anyway.
A good boy, a bad boy, a good bad boy, a half good, half bad, half boy.
Actually, I don't need any of that because I have patrons. Patrons like Valkyrie, Veda, Ingrid, Roma, Pansing Pony, Julius the Nice Dragon, Haley, Sam, Kiara, Kohikaro, Mooney, Maria, Kirsten, Bear, Jojo Bookish, Lauren, Robin, Ursula, Caitlin, KJ, Lafone, Amanda, Celia, Neon, NVM, Alyssa, Deborah, Afra, Melissa, Swamp Goblin Waifu, Sophia, Marween, Kit, Hidden Glade, Light Julie, Belle, Patrick, Anne Sophie, Callison, Ray, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Rennie, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, Lisa, and Sarah. With patrons like that, why would I need anything else?
Oh, really? Hey, why don't you do me a favor and go get yourself another perm and let the grown-ups talk?
For your information, my hair is naturally curly.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
That's a perm job all the way.
Touch it.
Hey, why are you touching him?